teach a man to fish, and he will be fed for a lifetime. This is the quote that I selected nearly 2 years ago at my first LearnServe abroad meeting. I remember thinking as a teacher that my job is to empower students to the point where I am no longer needed. Since then, my perspective has changed quite a bit. At the time, I had been teaching English for 7 years, and I cared very much about opening my students' world. We were reading about Cambodian child soldiers, a boy's successful attempt at escaping a North Korean concentration camp, a girl's fight during apartheid-ridden Soweto, and another girl from Pakistan's fight for girls' education. I remember my students being moved by these stories, but not moved to action. That same year, I was teaching an environmental sustainability class, focused on social exclusion and exposing my students to the destruction of our planet and how it affects some more than others. Having them read, watch, and listen to young women working in sweatshops, migrant farmers, and refugees. Again, my students were moved, but not moved to action. I was frustrated, but I was more frustrated with myself. How dare I challenge my students to take action when I haven't? Sure, I had made changes to my lifestyle to help heal the planet. Sure, I was teaching my students about the harsh realities of other children around the world. But what was I doing about it? My excuses sounded a lot like theirs. Didn't have the time or money. And that didn't stop me, though, for trying. Then I met Scott. He told me about the LearnServe Abroad program. And it wasn't the travel component that stuck with me. It was LearnServe's mission. Instead of sending students abroad to just observe other cultures, or even engage in service projects, they encourage students to observe local social change organizations tackling issues in Zambia, Paraguay, and Jamaica, and then come home and take action towards an issue in their own communities. The first question they ask students in the Fellows program is, what pisses you off? And then students work towards changing that. That was the bridge. This is how I can move my students past sympathy and inaction and empathy and action. But it wasn't just them. I too had to model what this looked like. So in addition to recruiting, encouraging, helping to fundraise, and prepping students for travel, I traveled too. In the last 3 years, I've traveled to 8 countries. One of the first countries I traveled to was Zambia with LearnServe, with 3 of my students. It was very transformative. We planted trees alongside other Zambians, hoping to tackle the deforestation in the area. And this actually incited an authentic interaction. Just a year before, I went on a cultural immersion trip to Japan with students, and there were few opportunities to interact with Japanese students in a way that would have a lasting impact on their community and ours. However, in Zambia, I watched my students grow and get passionate about their projects they were going to implement on their return. To see organizations in Zambia have an impact on their communities with far fewer resources motivated them to make it happen when they returned. That year, I also went to Ghana and worked in a similar fashion on sustainability. That fall, I stood alongside my students who were more confident and passionate to take action than ever before. That year, we planted trees at our school, crocheted scarves for the homeless, and so much more. And they recruited their classmates to help. I've been teaching for 10 years. And no matter what I said or did in my classroom, I couldn't get this kind of motivation like I experienced after that first summer. Traveling with a focus on social change is the key. It is my students who took action the following year as LearnServe Fellows and started social entrepreneurships, projects of their own design. It is my students who recruited new students to travel to Zambia and Jamaica this year. It is my students who have and are continuing to take action. They are the catalyst for social change agency at our school, and I am so proud of them. You see, you don't have to wait on us adults to fix the problem. You have the power to fix it yourselves. Just as Marley Diaz, an 11-year-old girl who held the 1,000 Black Girl Book Tribe. She received way more. Or the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala Yousafzai, who at the age of 15 was shot by the Taliban for speaking up for girls to receive an education. Or ask the girls in Zambia who work for Daughter's Vision. No matter the circumstance, they were moved to action and made it happen. Age didn't matter. Remember when I said teaching a man to fish resonated with me 2 years ago? Because I was a teacher. Well, that's changed to another quote that LearnServe posts up each year by Lilla Watson. If you have come to help me, then you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together. This is what social action looks like. And traveling with my students and engaging with social change organizations abroad has taught me that we share the world and we learn and benefit from supporting each other. As a teacher, I used to be the giver of information, but as a traveler, I am the student, learning and soaking up information so I can return and do the same for others. Teaching students that the disparities that we read about are not other people's problems, they are our problems. We share the responsibility in fixing it, and age is not a hindrance, but in some ways, it's a superpower. These students stand in front of you, or sit rather, are unstoppable. They know that travel is not some far-flung dream. There are organizations like LearnServe that make traveling abroad accessible. As you get older, I encourage you to continue your quest by seeking study abroad opportunities in college, or after college with organizations like Peace Corps, or apply for a Fulbright scholarship, for which I had the pleasure of traveling to India this summer, and I am well out of college. The opportunities are out there, and we need students like you who are passionate and brave enough to try. I'm certain before me are future world leaders, maybe even some Nobel Prize winners, and you are just getting started. As an English teacher, I can't help but understand the frustration of the late Holocaust survivor and Nobel Prize laureate Elie Wiesel when he wrote, "Books no longer have the power they once did. Those who kept silent yesterday will remain silent tomorrow. But I know that this experience has rendered you unable to remain silent, unable to stay still, unable to let injustice prevail." I speak on behalf of your parents and your teachers, of your LearnServe chaperones and staff when I say, we are very proud of all of you.